Okay, now that we have mastered this process of doing drops, the next process that you want to master is how to do lines. Because if you're gonna do any sort of path following project in which you're trying to apply some pattern, you will typically want to do like either line segments or join lines. So in this, we're gonna study the process of how to fine tune the dispensing of a line. And and so here I've just printed in SolidWorks, a reference plane and some lines with some graduations here, so that I can have sort of an idea of like a ruler. And what we're doing in this program is that we have a start that gets indexed by an iteration variable, so that this is all goes back to variable waypoints, and so you'll see how like you can start tweaking things and sort of work with these line segments. So the idea is that we have a start, we have an APR for like the approach of that start, then we turn off the dispenser, then we're going to go to some end, then we're going to go to this concept of a tear, and then finally the end approach. So if you see, we initially do a linear move here to this approach point. We turn on this trigger variable equal true, and then we do a process move down to the start. We go to our off position, then we turn off the dispenser, and then we go to some end position. We stop our linear move, our process move, I mean, and then we do a linear move to some tear position, and finally to some approach. And what you see here in the event trigger is that whenever the event trigger is true, we're going to do this pre-push, right? So that we, because we have sucked back our material and it's inside of the tip. So we will have it be, we will do a little pre-push, then we will extend at a rate of, let's say, 75. And then while the trigger is true, we're going to keep extending. And then finally, we'll do our retract to suck back our 400 that we found was a good number from our drop study. So let's see how you would fine tune this and how it would all come together. So initially I have an approach that is of 25 millimeters, and I turn on my dispenser right when I hit that approach, and then I turn it off 15 millimeters. So you see, I turn it off right after this dispense off, and that is at 60 millimeters from the start, and then I finally end at 75. So let's just run this and see what happens. So we'll run this. And so what we see is that we kind of have this blob at the beginning. I mean, it's not bad, but we have this blob at the beginning. And so we want to correct that. So what that means is that we started sort of dispensing too early, right? Our approach is too high for when we start dispensing, and then that causes this initial blob at the beginning, and then we kind of have this discontinuity at the end. So let's start reducing this amount. Instead of being 25, let's say we make it 15. So we'll do 15 here, and we'll play again, and this is where our iteration variable is nice because it will index our line. All right, so 15 is definitely much better, and we still kind of have this discontinuity here at the end. And so what we will do there is, so I think we could still kind of maybe lower this a little bit. So I'm going to go maybe here with 13. And now let's work on that back end. So on that back end, something I may want to do is, when we finish, we may want to sort of come back in the direction of the line so that, we kind of put this blob right at the point where we turned off. So this is where this grid tear might come in. And so we might want to say, we want to come back, let's say 10 millimeters in the X direction, so that we sort of fill that little space where we started to turn off. So we run this again. And so that looks pretty good. I still think we have, a little bit, we're turning off a little bit too early, so we have that little void. So maybe here in our dispenser off, we can put something like, let's say, another 3 millimeters. So we'll do another 3 millimeters and we'll play this again. Okay, so that's pretty good, but we still maybe have a little bit too much there. So maybe we want to um, turn off a little earlier. So let's go back to maybe something like 62. We'll play this again. All right, so that's actually looking quite good. Still a little bit of a blob. So let's do this tear, maybe go back a little bit further to maybe 15 and see how that looks. See if we can sort of move that further back. All right, so I mean, I think that looks pretty good. I mean, if we wanted to maybe too, we can change this height that we were having, half a millimeter lower. So maybe we can do that tear, but a little bit more on the glue. So we can run this again. All right, so that is all pretty good. Maybe even we could end a little sooner. So our dispenser off maybe was actually good at 60. So let's put 60 here again. Run this one more time. So our starting of the line is really good. And now our end of the line. Yeah. So, you're always going to have a little bit of a discontinuity there. But I think that's pretty good. Let's see what happens here if we put a little bit more, like 68. I just want to see 65. See if we can sort of minimize that discontinuity. Yeah, that looks pretty good right there. That creates a pretty good seam. So that's what you want to do when you're working on, you want to see sort of the repeatability of your start, and at what point, how much you have to tear back, and that's how you fine tune these parameters. And this is where the variable waypoints really allow you to understand in millimeters, how you actually went about doing that. All right, thank you very much.